February 2 is not just another square on the calendar. This date carries a weight that many can feel but few can explain. There are moments in time when the spiritual atmosphere thins, when insight moves closer to the human heart, and when clarity is offered not gradually, but suddenly. February 2 is one of those moments. You were not meant to stumble upon this message casually. You were drawn here because something within you is already responding to a shift that has begun. Archangel Michael's presence is tied to moments like this, moments of alignment, correction, and divine order. His message today is not general, and it is not symbolic. It is precise, intentional, and connected directly to where you are standing right now. Alignment is a word many hear, but few truly understand. It is often mistaken for comfort, ease where everything falling neatly into place. But alignment, especially divine alignment, rarely begins that way. It begins with awareness. It begins with a stirring that says, something must adjust. February 2 marks a checkpoint, a spiritual pause where heaven invites you to look honestly at what is in harmony and what is not. Archangel Michael steps forward not to accuse, but to illuminate. His role is protection through truth, and truth often arrives before relief. That is why this message feels urgent. Not because something bad is about to happen, but because something important is ready to happen, and delay would cost momentum. Right now, alignment looks different than it did before. It is no longer about preparation alone. It is about positioning. Many listening have already done the inner work, already endured seasons of confusion, pruning, and waiting. February 2 does not reopen those chapters, it responds to them. This date functions like a hinge. What swings open or shut depends on whether you recognize the moment for what it is. Archangel Michael brings insight specifically because clarity is required before the next step can be taken safely. When alignment is ignored, people often move forward anyway, but without protection, without peace, and without precision. This is why the message arrives now, and not later. Here is also a reason the invitation is to watch and open this now. Spiritual alignment operates on timing. When heaven speaks, it does not repeat itself endlessly. Not because God withholds, but because obedience has a window. February 2 is one of those windows. It does not demand perfection. It asks for attention. The feeling that you should listen closely, that you should not multitask through this moment, is not pressure. It is recognition. Something in you already knows that this date is marking a turning point, even if you cannot yet articulate what that turning point is. Archangel Michael's presence carries authority, but also reassurance. He does not arrive to frighten or overwhelm. He arrives to stabilize. When alignment is restored, confusion loses its power. Fear quiets. Distractions become obvious. That is why this message may feel grounding even as it feels intense. February 2 is not about rushing ahead. It is about standing correctly before moving. Alignment right now looks like honesty with yourself, courage to stop forcing outcomes, and willingness to release what no longer fits the direction you are being led. Some listening may feel a sense of urgency mixed with calm. Others may feel resistance rising. Both are indicators that this message is touching something real. Alignment exposes misalignment, and that exposure can be uncomfortable. But Archangel Michael does not expose to shame. He exposes to protect. There are paths you could walk that would exhaust you unnecessarily. There are decisions that seem productive but would pull you slightly off course. February 2 is a correction point, gentle but firm, offering you the chance to adjust before momentum increases. This is why it matters that you are here now. Not tomorrow. Not when things settle. Alignment does not wait for ideal conditions, it creates them. The insight being released today is meant to settle something internally so that externally you can move with confidence rather than doubt. Archangel Michael's guidance today is like a compass being recalibrated. You may have still been moving forward before, but now your direction becomes truer, your steps lighter, your discernment sharper. If you have felt lately like you are standing between chapters, unsure whether to hold on or let go, February 2 answers that tension. It does not give you a list, it gives you clarity. Alignment right now looks like choosing peace over pressure, truth over habit, and obedience over explanation. This message is opening because you are ready to receive it. And as it opens, it will begin to name what has felt vague, confirm what has felt uncertain, and strengthen what has felt fragile. This is not coincidence. This is timing. This is alignment beginning to take shape. And as you continue listening, what is being revealed next will help you understand exactly how this moment fits into your path, and why recognizing it now changes everything. If you are hearing this now, it is because something greater than curiosity brought you here. Messages like this do not surface randomly, and they are not received accidentally. There is a subtle but unmistakable pull that led you to press play, a quiet inner nudge that said, "Pay attention." That nudge is the first sign of awakening. It is the signal that your awareness is already shifting into alignment. February 2 carries a frequency that calls the watcher awake, and the fact that you are listening confirms that your spirit is responding before your mind fully understands why. Divine messages often arrive disguised as ordinary moments. A video suggestion, a sudden pause in your routine, an unexpected stillness that makes room for reflection. But heaven uses the ordinary to deliver the extraordinary. This is how alignment begins, by interrupting autopilot. When Archangel Michael brings insight, it is not loud or chaotic. It is precise. It arrives when your defenses are lowered just enough to receive truth. And truth, when it arrives at the right moment, does not feel harsh. It feels clarifying. There are many who scroll past moments like this, not because they are unworthy, but because they are distracted. Attention is currency in the spiritual realm. What you give your attention to shapes what you align with. February 2 is asking a simple but powerful question. What are you truly giving your attention to right now? Not what you say matters, but what consistently holds your focus. Archangel Michael's message today is not meant to add noise to your life. It is meant to refine your focus. Alignment begins when attention is reclaimed. You may notice that as you listen, certain thoughts surface. Old concerns, unfinished decisions, lingering questions. This is not interruption. This is exposure. Alignment does not ignore what is unresolved. It brings it into the light. February 2 is revealing where your energy has been divided. Not to overwhelm you, but to free you. When attention is scattered, alignment feels difficult. When attention is gathered, alignment becomes natural. This message is helping you gather yourself. There is also a reason this call feels personal. Divine alignment is never generic. Even when many hear the same words, each heart receives a tailored instruction. Archangel Michael speaks with authority, but that authority adapts to the listener. What stands out to you, what resonates deeply or causes resistance, is where the message is landing. That is where alignment is being negotiated within you right now. This is the moment to consciously agree with what is unfolding. Agreement is not passive. It is an internal decision to remain present. If this message is stirring something in you, acknowledge it. Engagement is not just about watching, it is about responding. And there is power in visible response. When you like, comment, or share this message, you are not feeding an algorithm. You are signaling agreement. You are declaring, even subtly, that you are open to alignment. If this message is speaking to you, take a moment to interact with it. Let that action be a marker that you did not let this moment pass unnoticed. And if you feel led, subscribe to the channel so you remain connected to messages that arrive in season, not by chance. Attention also creates accountability. When you name what resonates, when you acknowledge what you are sensing, clarity increases. Many people wait for certainty before responding, but certainty often comes after movement. February 2 is not asking you to have everything figured out. It is asking you to be awake enough to recognize that something is being offered. Archangel Michael's guidance is protective, and protection requires awareness. When you are aware, you are less likely to step into what drains you or delays you. This call to attention is also a call away from urgency that comes from fear. Alignment does not rush. It steadies. If you have felt hurried lately, pressured to decide quickly or to keep up, this message is interrupting that rhythm. True alignment does not compete for your attention. It claims it gently and firmly. February 2 invites you to slow your inner pace without stopping your progress. But balance is rare, and it is intentional. You may also feel a quiet confirmation forming, as if something you suspected is being validated. That is not imagination. That is discernment strengthening. Archangel Michael's presence often sharpens discernment first, before revealing direction. When discernment increases, confusion decreases. This is why paying attention now matters. What you notice today will influence how clearly you see tomorrow. Let this be a conscious moment. Not one that fades as background noise, but one that anchors you. Attention is the doorway to alignment, and you are standing at that doorway now. February 2 is calling you not to strive, but to see. Not to chase, but to recognize. As you remain present, the message will begin to narrow, becoming more specific, more personal, more actionable. What is unfolding next will help you understand exactly what needs to shift and what needs to remain steady. And the more attentively you listen, the more clearly that alignment will reveal itself. What you are experiencing right now is not random pressure, emotional fluctuation, or spiritual confusion. It is a test, but not the kind most people imagine. This is not a test of endurance or suffering. This is an alignment test, and it is far more subtle. Archangel Michael reveals that many are being evaluated not by what they can endure, but by what they can discern. February 2 exposes whether you are moving from habit or from obedience, from momentum or from instruction. This test does not announce itself loudly. It hides inside everyday decisions, inner reactions, and quiet moments when no one else is watching. The hidden alignment test asks a simple question. Are you responding from who you used to be, or from who you are becoming? That question alone reveals why this moment feels intense. Alignment always tests identity before it releases direction. You may feel pulled in two directions, one familiar, one unknown. The familiar feels safer because you understand it, even if it no longer fulfills you. The unknown feels risky because it requires trust, even though it carries peace. February 2 highlights that tension so it can no longer be ignored. Archangel Michael's role in this test is protection through clarity. He does not allow you to unknowingly step into misalignment. That is why resistance may be surfacing now. Resistance is not failure. It is feedback. It reveals where old patterns are still trying to lead. Alignment challenges what no longer fits, not to punish you, but to prevent delay. If you have felt irritated by small things, unsettled without a clear reason, or emotionally sensitive to situations that never used to affect you, These are signals. The test is active. This alignment test is also internal before it is external. No one may see it happening, but you feel it deeply. You are being asked to notice how you respond when control is removed. You rush to fix, explain, or justify? Or do you pause and listen? February 2 brings awareness to how quickly you try to regain certainty. Archangel Michael teaches that alignment is not about having answers immediately, but about trusting the voice that guides you through uncertainty. Silence in this season is not absence. It is instruction. Another layer of this test involves discernment between peace and avoidance. Many confuse the two. Peace comes with clarity, even when the decision is difficult. Avoidance feels calm temporarily but leaves residue, unease that returns later. February 2 helps you tell the difference. If something you are holding on to requires constant justification, it may be misaligned. Alignment does not require you to defend it endlessly. It stands on its own. Archangel Michael reveals that what is truly aligned will eventually feel firm, even if it felt uncomfortable at first. This test also measures your willingness to release what once worked. Growth demands new alignment. What served you in a previous season may now restrict you. That does not mean it was wrong. It means it has completed its assignment. February 2 marks a transition point where clinging becomes heavier than letting go. Archangel Michael does not force release, but he makes the cost of holding on visible. That visibility is mercy. It gives you the chance to choose wisely. You may notice that certain conversations feel draining now, or certain goals feel strangely empty. This is not loss of motivation. It is refinement. Alignment strips away what no longer carries life. The hidden test asks whether you will interpret that stripping as failure or as preparation. Those who pass this test do not panic when things feel different. They listen. They allow clarity to form instead of rushing to recreate the past. There is also a test of trust embedded here. Trust not just in God, but in the process of alignment itself. February 2 does not reveal the full map. It reveals the next adjustment. Many delay alignment because they want the full picture. But Archangel Michael reminds you that protection often comes step by step. You do not need to see everything to move correctly. You need to see enough to obey. As this test unfolds, you may feel moments of confirmation, small but powerful. A thought that settles you. A decision that suddenly feels lighter. A sense of this is it without logical explanation. These are markers. They are signs that alignment is being restored internally. Pay attention to them. They are not emotional highs. They are stabilizers. Hold this awareness close, because what follows builds directly on how you respond here. The clarity coming next depends on whether you recognize this test for what it is. And if you feel something shifting as you listen, do not dismiss it. That shift is the alignment taking root. Hold on. What comes next brings even deeper clarity, and you will be glad you stayed for what is about to be revealed. Type "I am aligned" in the comments if this message confirms what you are sensing. Blessing code 314 is now activated. As this alignment begins to take root, I want to speak directly to those who feel the weight and the calling of this moment. When you support this mission, you are not supporting a channel. You are helping God's light reach souls who are still in confusion. The word declares, "Cast your bread upon the waters, and it will return to you." And this is God inviting you to sow into living ground. I feel led to say this personally. When you give here, you are responding to a divine nudge, not a human request. Just as alignment requires obedience, so does provision. Let your support through super thanks, channel membership, or PayPal linked in the description or shown by QR code, via prophetic act that releases oil, clarity, and covering. I speak blessing over every giver now. May your seed open doors, steady your path, and multiply peace in your life. Obey this prompting now and let heaven respond. When heaven becomes involved in alignment, the definition changes completely. It is no longer about efficiency, productivity, or even visible success. Divine alignment operates on a different system, one that prioritizes order over speed and purpose over pressure. This is why what you are experiencing now may not resemble what you expected alignment to feel like. Many imagine alignment as everything clicking instantly into place. But when heaven is involved, alignment often begins with things slowing down, simplifying, or becoming very clear in ways that feel almost uncomfortable at first. Archangel Michael reveals that true alignment does not shout. It settles. It brings a sense of internal steadiness even when external circumstances remain uncertain. You may notice that while some questions remain unanswered, anxiety is losing its grip. That is not coincidence. That is heaven's involvement. When alignment is divine, it does not depend on circumstances to validate it. It is validated internally first. Peace becomes the indicator, not proof. One of the clearest signs that heaven is involved is the way resistance changes. Instead of constant inner conflict, you begin to feel a firm knowing. Even when obedience requires courage, it no longer feels chaotic. Alignment with heaven does not remove challenge, but it removes confusion. You may still need to make difficult decisions, but they no longer feel tangled. There is a sense of this is right, even if it costs you comfort or familiarity. Another marker of divine alignment is how your priorities quietly rearrange themselves. Things that once consumed your energy begin to lose importance. Not because they were wrong, but because they are no longer central. Heaven adjusts focus before it adjusts outcomes. That is why you may feel less driven by urgency and more guided by discernment. You are not losing ambition. You are gaining precision. Archangel Michael's influence brings order, and order always clarifies what truly matters. Alignment with heaven also feels different in the body. There is often a release of tension you did not realize you were carrying. Your thoughts become less scattered. Decisions feel less reactive. Even silence feels fuller. This is because divine alignment reduces internal friction. When your spirit and direction begin to agree, the strain of resistance eases. This does not mean everything is resolved. It means everything is oriented correctly. Heavenly alignment also exposes false peace. There is a calm that comes from avoidance, and there is a peace that comes from obedience. The difference becomes obvious when heaven is involved. Avoidance feels temporary and requires constant reinforcement. Obedience feels solid and does not need explanation. You may find yourself less interested in justifying your choices to others. That is a sign of alignment. When heaven confirms something internally, external validation becomes less necessary. Another important aspect of divine alignment is timing. Heaven does not rush, but it is never late. What may feel like delay is often synchronization. Archangel Michael emphasizes that alignment includes being in the right place at the right time with the right posture. You may notice that opportunities you once chased are no longer available, while unexpected openings appear without effort. This is not loss. It is redirection. Alignment removes what would distract you from what is protected. There is also a humility that accompanies heaven-led alignment. Not humiliation, but humility, a willingness to listen, adjust, and yield. Pride resists alignment because it insists on control. Alignment invites cooperation. You may feel less attached to being right and more committed to being aligned. That shift is powerful, It creates room for guidance to flow without obstruction. When heaven is involved, alignment also brings boundaries into focus. You become more aware of what drains you and what strengthens you. Saying no becomes easier, not because you are hardened, but because you are clearer. Boundaries stop feeling like rejection and start feeling like stewardship. Archangel Michael protects through boundaries, and alignment teaches you to honor them without guilt. It is important to understand that divine alignment does not always feel dramatic. Sometimes it feels almost ordinary, but lighter. The chaos fades quietly. The noise lessens. You realize you are no longer wrestling with the same internal battles. The quiet shift is often overlooked, but it is one of the strongest indicators that heaven has stepped in. Alignment does not always announce itself. It proves itself over time. As this alignment continues to take shape, you may feel a growing trust, not just in God, but in the direction unfolding. Even without full clarity, you sense that you are being led with intention. That trust is not naive. It is cultivated. It comes from recognizing patterns of guidance, protection, and correction that are too consistent to be accidental. This is what alignment looks like when heaven is involved. It is not about perfection. It is about placement. You are being positioned in a way that supports what is coming next, even if you cannot yet see it fully. And as this positioning stabilizes, the next layer of insight will begin to surface, showing you how this alignment is already influencing your inner world in ways you may not have consciously noticed. Not all transformation announces itself. Some of the most significant shifts happen quietly, beneath the surface, long before anything changes outwardly. What you are experiencing now is one of those moments. There is an inner shift unfolding that does not demand attention, but it deserves recognition. February 2 initiated movement internally, and Archangel Michael reveals that this movement is subtle by design. If it were loud, it would be resisted. Because it is quiet, it is taking root. You may have noticed that your emotional responses are changing. Situations that once triggered strong reactions now feel distant, almost muted. This is not apathy. It is detachment with purpose. Alignment often reduces emotional noise so discernment can increase. When you are no longer pulled by every external stimulus, you can hear guidance more clearly. That clarity is forming now, even if you have not consciously named it. Another sign of this inner shift is restlessness that does not feel anxious. It feels more like a nudge, a sense that something is finishing while something else is preparing to begin. You may find yourself questioning routines, goals, or relationships without resentment or frustration. That questioning is not rebellion. It is evaluation. Alignment prompts review. Archangel Michael brings awareness to what no longer fits, not to condemn it, but to signal completion. This quiet shift also affects how you view time. Urgency is losing its grip. You may still care deeply about what lies ahead, but the frantic need to control outcomes is softening. That softening is not passivity, it is trust developing. When alignment is restored, time feels less like an enemy and more like a tool. You stop racing against it and start moving with it. You may also notice increased sensitivity, not in a fragile sense, but in awareness. Subtle changes in atmosphere, tone, or intention stand out more clearly. This is discernment sharpening. Archangel Michael often heightens sensitivity before major transitions, not to overwhelm, but to protect. When you sense more, you can avoid what would drain or delay you. This is part of the inner adjustment happening now. Another indicator of this shift is a desire for simplicity. Complexity that once felt stimulating now feels heavy. You may crave clarity, order, and depth over noise and distraction. This is alignment streamlining your focus. Heaven does not compete for your attention. It refines it. The quiet pull toward simplicity is not withdrawal from life. It is preparation for precision. You may also experience moments of unexplained calm, even when circumstances suggest stress. That calm is not denial. It is assurance forming beneath the surface. Alignment produces peace that does not depend on resolution. It is the kind of peace that allows you to sit with unanswered questions without spiraling. That ability is a sign of maturity, and it is developing now. This inner shift also involves identity. Without consciously trying, you may feel less defined by past roles or labels. What you use to introduce yourself as may feel incomplete. That does not mean you are losing yourself. It means you are shedding definitions that no longer capture who you are becoming. Alignment updates identity quietly, so you can grow without resistance. You might also feel drawn to silence more than usual. Not isolation, but intentional quiet. Silence creates space for integration. When alignment shifts internally, the soul needs moments of stillness to adjust. Archangel Michael honors this process. He does not rush transformation, he stabilizes it. If you feel the need to pause, reflect, or step back briefly, honor that instinct. It is part of the realignment. There may be moments when you wonder if you are doing enough. That question often arises when old measurement systems are being dismantled. Alignment replaces performance-based worth with presence-based confidence. You no longer need to constantly prove your value through activity. Being correctly positioned becomes more important than being constantly busy. This shift also affects desire. Some ambitions may feel less urgent, while others emerge unexpectedly. This is not inconsistency. It is calibration. Heaven adjusts desire so it aligns with purpose. What you begin to want next will feel truer, even if it feels unfamiliar. Pay attention to new interests or curiosities. They are not distractions. They are indicators. As all of this unfolds quietly, it is easy to underestimate its significance. But internal alignment always precedes external change. What is stabilizing now will support what is coming later. The reason this shift is gentle is because it is foundational. Archangel Michael ensures that what is built next rests on solid ground. Do not rush to interpret everything. Some understanding will come later. For now, awareness is enough. Trust that what feels different is not something to fix, but something to allow. The quietness is intentional. The shift is real. And as it continues, external confirmation will follow in ways that are unmistakable. As the inner shift stabilizes, the external world begins to respond. Alignment does not remain hidden forever. What first changes within you eventually echoes outward, often through signs that feel too precise to ignore. These signs are not meant to impress you, they are meant to reassure you. Archangel Michael reveals that when alignment is genuine, confirmation follows, not always dramatically, but consistently. February 2 set internal order in motion, and now the outer environment is beginning to mirror that adjustment. One of the first external signs many notice is interruption. Plans that once moved smoothly may suddenly slow down. Delays appear where momentum once existed. This is not obstruction, it is protection. When alignment is being restored, heaven often pauses forward motion to prevent missteps. Archangel Michael intervenes by slowing what would otherwise pull you out of position. What feels like inconvenience is often divine restraint. Pay attention to what is being delayed and ask why. The answer often reveals what is no longer aligned. Another common sign is repetition. You may encounter the same themes, words, or ideas across different contexts. Conversations repeat themselves. Messages echo. Numbers or phrases appear unexpectedly. This repetition is not coincidence. It is reinforcement. Heaven speaks in patterns when clarity is essential. Archangel Michael uses repetition to anchor truth so it cannot be dismissed as imagination. When something appears more than once, especially within a short period, it is asking to be acknowledged. You may also notice sudden clarity around people. Relationships that once felt confusing become obvious. You clearly sense who strengthens you and who drains you. This clarity does not come with judgment. It comes with neutrality. You are no longer emotionally tangled in deciphering intentions. Alignment sharpens perception. Archangel Michael ensures that protection includes relational discernment. When you see clearly, you are less vulnerable to influence that would pull you off course. Doors closing is another significant external sign. Opportunities you expected to continue may end abruptly. This can feel disappointing if you are attached to outcomes, but alignment reframes loss as redirection. What closes now does so cleanly. There is less drama and less chaos. The closure feels final, even if it feels sudden. That finality is a gift. It prevents lingering doubt. Archangel Michael closes doors decisively when remaining would cause harm or delay. At the same time, new openings may appear quietly. They may not look impressive at first. They may require humility or patience, but they feel right. There is less internal resistance when you consider them. Alignment does not always elevate immediately. Sometimes it stabilizes first. These new openings often come without force. You are invited, not pushed. That invitation is a sign of heaven's involvement. Another external indicator is the shift in how effort feels. Tasks that once required excessive energy now feel lighter, even if they are challenging. Conversely, things that once felt easy may now feel heavy. This change in effort is diagnostic. Alignment reduces friction where you are meant to invest and increases friction where you are meant to withdraw. Archangel Michael uses this contrast to guide you without constant instruction. You may also experience unexpected support. Help arrives without you asking. Conversations provide exactly what you needed to hear. Resources align at the right moment. This is not luck. It is alignment creating flow. When your internal posture shifts, the environment responds. Heaven coordinates assistance when direction is correct. These moments are confirmations that you are not walking alone. Another sign is peace during uncertainty. External circumstances may still be unresolved, but your reaction to them has changed. You are less reactive, less anxious. That calm stands out precisely because the situation has not fully changed. This contrast is significant. It indicates that alignment has moved from theory into experience. Archangel Michael ensures that peace becomes your compass, not circumstances. You may also notice that distractions lose their appeal. Things that once consumed your attention no longer hold the same pull. This external shift reflects an internal reprioritization. Alignment simplifies desire. When you no longer chase what drains you, clarity increases naturally. This narrowing of focus is not loss, it is refinement. Sometimes confirmation comes through contrast. You see clearly what misalignment looks like in others, or in situations you observe. This is not for comparison. It is for learning. Heaven uses contrast to highlight growth. Archangel Michael allows you to recognize what you have moved beyond so you do not return to it unknowingly. All of these signs work together. None of them alone define alignment, but collectively they form a pattern. February 2 initiated this pattern. What you are noticing now is evidence that the shift is real. Do not dismiss these signs as coincidence. They are markers placed along your path to reassure you that adjustment is working. As you continue forward, these confirmations will become more specific. The more you respond with awareness rather than fear, the clearer the guidance becomes. What is unfolding next will require courage, but it will also come with protection. And understanding how to respond correctly will be the key to moving forward without resistance. There comes a point in every alignment process when awareness is no longer enough. Insight prepares you, confirmation steadies you, but then a moment arrives that asks for response. This is the realignment moment. It is not dramatic in appearance, but it is decisive in impact. Archangel Michael reveals that this moment is already approaching for many listening. You can feel it in the way hesitation is losing its comfort and neutrality is no longer possible. Something within you knows that remaining where you are, internally or externally, will soon feel heavier than moving forward. Realignment is not about adding something new first. It is about stopping something old. This is where many struggle, because stopping feels like loss, even when what is being released is no longer life-giving. The realignment moment asks you to identify what you are forcing. Effort that comes from alignment feels supported. Effort that comes from misalignment feels exhausting. February 2 has already highlighted where effort has become strain. And now, the question is whether you will continue pushing against resistance or allow correction to take place. Archangel Michael's guidance here is firm but protective. He does not demand abrupt change. He calls for honest surrender. Surrender is often misunderstood as weakness, but in alignment, surrender is precision. It is the decision to stop directing energy toward what no longer responds. A decision alone creates space, and space is where guidance moves freely. If you have been trying to make something work through explanation, persuasion, or sheer will, this moment asks you to pause. Not forever, just long enough to let truth surface. The realignment moment often arrives disguised as discomfort, a growing sense that something is off, even if it looks fine on the surface. That discomfort is not meant to be ignored or medicated away. It is meant to be interpreted. Discomfort is alignment's signal flare. It marks where adjustment is required. Archangel Michael ensures that this signal becomes noticeable so you do not drift further off course. There is also an element of courage involved here. Realignment sometimes requires you to disappoint expectations, your own or others. It may mean changing direction after investing time or effort. It can feel risky, but misalignment always costs more in the long run. Courage in this moment does not look like bold announcements. It looks like quiet decisions made with integrity. Decisions that prioritize peace over approval. Another aspect of this moment is letting go of timelines. You may have imagined how and when things should unfold. Realignment asks you to loosen that grip. Timing adjusts when alignment is restored. Archangel Michael emphasizes that forcing timing often creates unnecessary struggle. When you release the need to control sequence, flow increases. What needs to happen next will reveal itself more clearly when pressure is removed. This moment also tests trust, not just in guidance, but in yourself. You are being asked to trust the discernment that has been forming. Doubt often arises when people discount their own growth. But alignment opens perception for a reason. You are not guessing anymore, you are sensing. The realignment moment asks you to honor that sensing without overanalyzing it. You may feel a pull to simplify actions, conversations, or commitments. That pull is not laziness, it is refinement. Alignment reduces excess. Archangel Michael trims what distracts so focus can return. If something requires constant maintenance just to stay functional, it may not belong in the next phase. Realignment favors sustainability over appearance. There is also a release of guilt embedded in this moment. Guilt often keeps people tied to misalignment longer than necessary. But guilt is not a compass. Alignment does not accuse, it invites. You are not failing by choosing differently now. You are responding appropriately to new awareness. Growth always requires updated choices. This moment may feel quiet externally, but internally it is powerful. Decisions made here ripple outward later. What you choose to stop doing now protects what you will be entrusted with next. Archangel Michael's protection is forward-looking. He corrects course so future progress does not require repair. As this realignment settles, you may feel a subtle sense of relief. Not because everything is resolved, but because resistance has eased. That relief is confirmation. It signals that you have adjusted correctly, even if the full outcome is not yet visible. Alignment often feels lighter immediately, even before circumstances change. Do not rush this moment, but do not ignore it. It is precise, it is personal, and it is timed. What follows will build on the decision you make here. And as you move into the next phase, protection will become more evident, surrounding you in ways that bring confidence rather than fear. After realignment comes protection. This is the order heaven follows every time. Correction without covering would leave you vulnerable, but Archangel Michael never corrects without sealing. What is happening now goes beyond guidance. It is fortification. A protective seal is being set around you, not because danger is increasing, but because your value and clarity are. When alignment sharpens, protection strengthens. February 2 marked the beginning of this process, and now the sealing phase is unfolding. This protection is not something you have to earn. It is activated by obedience and awareness. As you responded to insight, as you released resistance, you position yourself correctly. Protection flows naturally from that position. Archangel Michael's role as defender is especially present during transitions, because transitions expose vulnerability. You are moving from one internal posture to another, and heaven ensures that nothing interferes with that movement. You may already feel this protection as a sense of emotional distance from chaos. Things that once pulled you into fear or overthinking no longer have the same grip. This is not numbness. It is shielding. The protective seal filters what reaches you. Not everything deserves access to your attention anymore. Alignment narrows influence, and protection enforces that boundary. This seal also works at the level of thought. Intrusive doubts, repetitive worries, and imagined outcomes begin to lose intensity. They may still appear, but they do not linger. Archangel Michael restricts what can settle in your mind. This is crucial because the mind often becomes the battleground during seasons of change. Protection does not remove thoughts. It limits their authority. Another sign of this seal is a growing sense of confidence without arrogance. You are less reactive, less defensive. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself constantly. That is protection manifesting as stability. When you are sealed, you do not need to prove your alignment. You simply live from it. Protection also shows up as redirection. You may feel suddenly uninterested in environments, conversations, or content that once occupied you. This is not boredom, it is discernment enforced. Archangel Michael blocks access to what would dilute clarity. This can feel abrupt, but it is intentional. The seal does not negotiate with distraction. You may also notice that conflict avoids you. Situations that once escalated now dissolve quickly or never form at all. This is not avoidance, it is authority. When alignment and protection work together, unnecessary battles are removed. Archangel Michael does not train you to fight every conflict. He teaches you to bypass what is beneath your calling. His protective seal also includes timing. you may feel protected from premature action. Even if you feel eager to move forward, something holds you steady until conditions are right. That restraint is not delay, it is defense. Acting too early can expose you unnecessarily. Protection ensures that when you move with backing. There is also a spiritual quietness that comes with sealing. Noise fades. External opinions matter less. Internal guidance becomes louder. This quietness is not isolation, it is insulation. It allows growth to continue without interference. Archangel Michael guards what is still forming so it is not disrupted before it matures. Do not confuse this protection with passivity. You are not being hidden away. You are being covered. There is a difference. Coverage allows preparation without attack. It ensures that when you are visible again, you are ready. Protection always serves purpose. As this seal settles, fear loses credibility. Fear may still attempt to speak, but its voice lacks authority. You recognize it more quickly and dismiss it more easily. That discernment is part of the seal. Protection does not eliminate threats. It reveals them clearly so they cannot deceive. This is also why gratitude becomes important now. Gratitude reinforces protection by acknowledging its presence. When you recognize covering, you align further with it. February 2 opened alignment. This phase secures it. And there is more. What is being protected now is not just you. It is what you carry next. The seal is forward-looking. It guards future assignments, conversations, and opportunities before they arrive. Archangel Michael does not wait for exposure. He anticipates it. If you feel a sense of reassurance as you listen, that is not emotional comfort. That is confirmation. The seal is real. The protection is active. And as you move forward, you will notice that certain things simply cannot touch you the way they once did. Hold on to this awareness, because what comes next will require response again. But this time, you will move from a place of covering, not vulnerability. You will be glad you stayed with this message, because the next phase explains how to walk confidently within this protection. Type "I am covered" in the comments if you receive this. Lesson code 642 is now activated. As this protective seal is set, I feel led to speak to those who recognize the weight of this moment. What you give right now is not money. It is seed placed into holy ground so others can come under this same covering. The word says that God gives seed to the sower, and I declare that He is speaking that promise directly to you now. I am inviting you personally to act on this prompting, because obedience and alignment releases multiplication. When you support through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, linked in the description or shown by the QR code, you are helping this message reach souls who are still unprotected and searching. I bless every giver now. May your obedience draw divine defense around your home, your mind, and your future. Do not delay. Respond to this call and let heaven mark your generosity. There is a moment in every alignment journey when protection is no longer the focus. Responses. Up to now, awareness has been sharpened, correction has been offered, and covering has been established. But alignment does not reach completion without participation. This is where many people misunderstand divine order. Heaven initiates, but humans respond. What you do next matters, not because alignment is fragile, but because movement requires agreement. Archangel Michael reveals that the outcome tied to this season is already prepared, but it remains dormant until response activates it. The response does not always look like dramatic action. Sometimes it is a quiet decision made consistently. Other times it is a clear yes or no spoken internally before it is ever spoken aloud. February 2 opened the door, protection secured the threshold, and now response determines whether you step through. Alignment without response becomes awareness without fruit. This is why this part is critical. You may notice that opportunities now feel closer, not fully formed, but within reach. That closeness is intentional. It tests readiness. Are you willing to act from alignment rather than fear? Fear asks for guarantees. Alignment asks for trust. Archangel Michael does not push you forward recklessly. He invites you to move confidently. Confidence here does not mean certainty about every detail. It means commitment to the direction being revealed. One of the clearest responses required right now is consistency. Alignment is not activated by one inspired moment and then forgotten. It is activated by repeated agreement. This may look like maintaining boundaries you recently established, or continuing to say no where you used to overextend. These small acts compound. Each one reinforces the alignment already set in place. Response is less about doing more and more about doing what aligns, repeatedly. Another form of response is declaration. What you agree with internally begins to shape reality when acknowledged externally. This is why visible engagement matters. When you like this message, comment on it, or share it, you are not performing a ritual. You are making a statement. You are signaling agreement with alignment. And agreement accelerates outcomes. If this message resonates, interact with it intentionally. Let that action mark your response. And if you are not yet subscribed, subscribing is another way of staying positioned for messages that arrive in season, not by accident. Response also involves letting go of hesitation disguised as wisdom. Discernment and delay are not the same. Discernment clarifies. Delay postpones. Archangel Michael reveals that some have been waiting for a feeling of total readiness that will never come. Readiness often follows obedience, not the other way around. This does not mean acting impulsively. It means acting faithfully with what you already know. You may feel a desire to revisit decisions you recently made, questioning whether they were correct. That is natural when movement begins. But response requires trust in the clarity you received earlier. Reopening settled decisions can weaken momentum. Alignment thrives on follow-through. If something brought peace when you decided it, honor that peace now. Another important response is restraint. Not every thought needs engagement. Not every opinion needs a reply. Alignment is activated as much by what you refuse to entertain as by what you pursue. Archangel Michael strengthens discernment so you can choose where your energy goes. Every time you choose peace over reaction, you reinforce alignment. There is also a communal aspect to response. You are not the only one aligning. Many are being positioned simultaneously, though paths differ. Your response contributes to a larger movement. When you respond correctly, it creates ripple effects beyond what you can see. This is why response carries weight. It is never isolated. Do not underestimate obedience in ordinary moments. Alignment is not only activated in major decisions, it is confirmed in daily posture. How you speak, how you rest, how you choose, all of these reinforce outcome. February 2 was a hinge point. What swings forward now depends on continued response. And here is the truth many miss. Outcomes are not forced by effort. They are unlocked by alignment. When response matches alignment, doors open naturally. Resistance decreases. Flow increases. Archangel Michael ensures that outcomes are not rushed, but they are inevitable when response remains steady. If you feel a sense of anticipation right now, that is not imagination. That is readiness meeting opportunity. What is coming next requires you to remain attentive, because the final layers of this message will help you recognize how to sustain alignment without slipping back into old patterns. Stay with this, because the clarity that follows will help you protect what has been activated, and you will be grateful you continued, because what comes next brings warning and reassurance together in a way that changes how you move forward. After February 2, the shift becomes noticeable in ways that feel subtle at first, but undeniable over time. This date does not end alignment. It initiates a new rhythm. What follows is not sudden chaos or instant reward, but a steady unfolding that reflects the internal adjustments already made. Archangel Michael reveals that after alignment is set, life begins to respond differently to you. Situations do not necessarily change overnight, but your relationship with them does. And that change alters outcomes more than force ever could. One of the first things you may notice after February 2 is a lighter internal atmosphere. Even if responsibilities remain the same, the emotional weight attached to them begins to lift. This is because alignment removes internal resistance. You are no longer fighting against yourself. Decisions feel cleaner. Doubt still appears, but it does not linger. This internal lightness is not excitement. It is stability. It signals that you are moving in the right direction. Another change is how quickly clarity arrives. Questions that once took weeks of overthinking now resolve themselves with less effort. You begin to recognize answers as they surface instead of chasing them. This does not mean you will have full foresight. It means discernment becomes more responsive. Archangel Michael strengthens discernment after alignment so you do not feel lost as new situations arise. You may also observe a shift in how others respond to you. Some may feel more distant, others more drawn. This is not personal, it is positional. Alignment changes your frequency. Those aligned with where you are going will recognize it, often without knowing why. Those who are not may drift away naturally. This separation is not rejection, it is sorting. February 2 initiates this sorting gently, without unnecessary conflict. Another important development after this date is patience replacing urgency. You no longer feel the need to push outcomes into existence. Trust grows quietly. This trust does not make you passive. It makes you deliberate. When you act, it is with intention rather than anxiety. Archangel Michael ensures that after alignment, movement is purposeful, not reactive. You may also notice that opportunities feel more aligned, but less flashy. They may require faith rather than excitement. Alignment does not always lead to immediate recognition. It often leads to correct placement first. What comes after February 2 is positioning. You are being placed where growth can be sustained, not where attention is loudest. This may challenge old expectations, but it protects long-term impact. Another shift involves how you handle uncertainty. After alignment, uncertainty no longer feels threatening. It becomes neutral. You can sit with unanswered questions without losing peace. This is a significant change, because fear thrives on uncertainty. When fear loses access, confidence grows naturally. Archangel Michael's protection continues here, not by removing unknowns, but by strengthening trust. You may also experience a renewed sense of purpose without pressure. Purpose feels quieter but clear. It no longer demands constant validation. You know when something aligns because it resonates internally, even if external affirmation is delayed. This inner confirmation becomes your reference point. February 2 resets where you look for assurance. Another noticeable change is how quickly misalignment becomes uncomfortable. What you once tolerated now feels heavy immediately. This is not intolerance. It is sensitivity developed through alignment. You can no longer ignore red flags or internal warnings. This sensitivity protects progress. Archangel Michael sharpens this awareness so correction happens early rather and after damage. Rest also changes after alignment. Rest becomes restorative instead of escapist. You are not resting to avoid life, but to sustain it. Even activity feels more balanced. Burnout becomes less likely because you are no longer pushing against resistance. Energy flows where alignment exists. It is important to understand that after February 2, growth continues in layers. You will still be learning, adjusting, and refining. Alignment is not a finish line. It is a foundation. What is built on it will be stronger because it is correctly placed. Archangel Michael then his region. He ensures stability. There may also be moments of testing after this date, not to undo alignment, but to strengthen it. These tests will feel different. They will not confuse you. They will confirm you. You will recognize quickly what aligns and what does not. That recognition is progress. As days pass, you may look back and realize how much has changed internally without dramatic events marking it. That realization is significant. It means alignment has done its work quietly and effectively. What comes next will be built on that quiet strength. February 2 is not something you move past. It is something you move from. It recalibrates direction so future steps require less correction. And as the final parts of this message unfold, you will see how to remain steady in this alignment, even when challenges arise, without slipping back into old patterns. Not every warning arrives with fear. Some arrive with clarity, restraint, and grace. This is one of those moments. Archangel Michael brings a warning now, not to alarm you, but to preserve what hath been established. When alignment has been restored and protection has been set, the greatest risk is not attack. It is drifting. Drift is subtle. It does not announce itself as rebellion. It appears as small compromises, quiet distractions, and gradual returns to familiar habits that no longer serve you. This warning exists to prevent that slow erosion. A mercy in this warning is timing. You are being alerted before consequences form. Misalignment does not usually destroy immediately. It delays. It postpones outcomes, blurs clarity, and drains momentum. Archangel Michael corrects early because early correction costs less. February 2 positioned you correctly, but position must be maintained. This is not about fear of losing alignment. It is about respect for it. One of the clearest warnings right now involves comfort. Comfort is not wrong, but when comfort replaces obedience, alignment weakens. You may feel tempted to settle into what feels manageable instead of continuing forward into what feels purposeful. This temptation often sounds reasonable. It argues for rest when rest becomes avoidance. Discernment is required here. True rest restores alignment. Avoidance erodes it. The warning is not against rest, but against retreat disguised as wisdom. Another area this warning touches is distraction. Not obvious distractions, but acceptable ones. Things that are not sinful or harmful, but that consume time and attention meant for clarity. Alignment requires focus. When focus fragments, direction blurs. Archangel Michael cautions against letting noise slowly crowd out discernment. What you allow repeatedly shapes what you align with. There is also a warning about revisiting old narratives. Stories you once told yourself about limitation, unworthiness, or inevitability may try to resurface. These narratives feel familiar, which makes them persuasive. But familiarity does not equal truth. Alignment changes identity, and old narratives cannot define a new position. The warning here is to recognize when old thinking attempts to reclaim authority. Do not argue with it, replace it with truth. Another subtle danger is overconfidence. Not confidence itself, but the belief that alignment no longer requires attention, Alignment is stable, but it is not automatic. It is sustained through awareness. Archangel Michael emphasizes vigilance, not anxiety. Vigilance means noticing shifts early and correcting gently. Anxiety panics after damage is done. This warning trains vigilance. You may also feel pressure to explain your choices to people who do not understand your direction. Explanation can be appropriate, but it can also become a drain. Not everyone needs access to your process. Over-explaining often weakens resolve. A warning here is to guard what is still forming. Alignment does not require universal agreement. It requires integrity. Another point of mercy in this warning involves timing again. You may be tempted to rush what is unfolding, to force visibility or results. Rushing creates exposure before maturity. Archangel Michael warns against premature advancement. Growth protected is growth sustained. Trust the pace that alignment has set. Faster is not always better. This warning is also about discernment in relationships. As alignment continues, some connections will naturally fade. Trying to revive them out of guilt can reopen old patterns. Mercy allows release without resentment. The warning is not to isolate, but to respect separation when it occurs peacefully. Forcing reconnection can reintroduce misalignment. Here is also a warning about ignoring small discomforts. When alignment is active, discomfort serves as an early signal. Ignoring it allows misalignment to grow quietly. Do not dismiss unease just because it is inconvenient. Investigate it gently. Often, it points to something needing adjustment. Archangel Michael uses these signals to keep you aligned without crisis. This warning is wrapped in mercy because it assumes growth, not failure. It does not accuse you of going backward. It equips you to move forward wisely. You are not being watched for mistakes. You are being guided to maintain clarity. Alignment is not fragile, but it is responsive. When you respond early, correction remains light. Remember this: grace does not remove responsibility, it supports it. You are not alone in maintaining alignment, but you are involved. Awareness is your safeguard. Obedience is your anchor. Discernment is your guide. As this message continues toward its conclusion, assurance will follow this warning. Not reassurance that nothing will ever challenge you, but assurance that you are capable of navigating what comes next with wisdom and peace. This warning prepares you to receive that assurance fully, without fear, and without drifting back into what has already been outgrown. As this message comes to its close, it is important to pause and recognize what has unfolded from beginning to end. This was never just information. It was alignment in motion. February 2 was revealed as a moment of positioning, not pressure. You were shown how awareness awakens alignment, how hidden tests refine it, how heaven becomes involved, how inner shifts stabilize it, how external signs confirm it, how realignment requires response, how protection seals it, how outcomes activate through obedience, how the days after unfold differently, and how mercy warns so progress is preserved. None of this was accidental. It followed order, because divine alignment always does. The assurance now being released is simple but powerful. You are not late, you are not behind, and you are not missing what is meant for you. Alignment does not measure worth by speed. It measures readiness by position. And right now, you are positioned correctly. Archangel Michael's presence throughout this message has not been symbolic. It has been functional. He stands not only as protector, but as confirmer, confirming that what you sensed internally was real, that what shifted quietly mattered, and that what is forming next is supported. There is a peace that comes when alignment settles fully. Not excitement that fades, but peace that remains. This peace does not deny challenges, it anchors you through them. You may still face decisions, conversations, and changes ahead, but you will not face them confused. Discernment hath been sharpened. Protection has been applied. Awareness hath been trained. These are not temporary gifts. They are tools meant to be used moving forward. The divine assurance also speaks to trust. You are not required to constantly reevaluate what has already been clarified. Second-guessing weakens momentum. Trust strengthens it. If something brought peace when you aligned with it, that peace remains your confirmation. Even when circumstances fluctuate, alignment does not disappear. It adapts. Archangel Michael ensures continuity, not rigidity. As you move forward, remember this. Alignment is not about perfection, but posture. You will not always respond flawlessly, but you will respond more faithfully. Direction will come faster, without condemnation. Guidance will come clearer, without confusion. This is growth. This is maturity. And this is what February 2 initiated. There is also assurance regarding provision. Alignment never leaves you unsupported. Resources, help, insight, and timing align when direction is correct. You do not have to chase what is meant to meet you. What is yours will recognize you in the right season. Trust reduces striving. Obedience reduces delay. The fear attempts to return. Remember that fear no longer has authority here. You are not navigating blindly. You are moving with covering. If uncertainty appears, remember that uncertainty is no longer your enemy. It is simply the space where trust operates. You are equipped to walk through it without losing peace. This closing moment is not an ending. It is a sealing. What you receive here does not fade when the video ends. Integrate. Over the coming days, you may notice confirmation in small ways, a decision that feels easier, a distraction that loses appeal, a clarity that arrives without effort. These are signs that alignment is holding. Take a moment now to acknowledge what resonates. Gratitude reinforces alignment. Awareness sustains it, and obedience activates what comes next. Type "I walk in alignment" in the comments if you receive this confirmation. Blessing code 901 is now activated. I speak peace over your mind, stability over your steps, and protection over your path. May clarity increase and resistance decrease as you move forward. As this message completes its assignment, I am speaking directly to those who feel the responsibility of what was released here. What you sow now helps carry this word to souls who are still waiting for alignment and protection. God's voice is saying, "Those who refresh others will themselves be refreshed," and this is a living invitation, not a quote. I am asking you personally to respond, because your obedience fuels reach, clarity, and covering for others. Support this mission through Super Thanks, channel membership, or PayPal. The links are in the description and the QR code appears on screen. I bless every giver now. May your seed return as peace, provision, and divine order in your life. Act now. Let this moment of alignment extend through your obedience.